Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the Box Hard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the Box Hard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 62 of the Box Hard Podcast, also known as the Christmas special for 2016. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as always, by Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how are you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, my friend. Very good. Now, of course, we are in the studio together. We're sitting across from each other, myself and Ayaz. Ayaz has decided to make the studio feel very Christmassy because this is the Christmas special. He's brought in some Santa outfits. We've got them on at the moment. He's brought in a Santa hat, which he's wearing, and it fits pretty snug on top of his headphones. But me, I've got the reindeer antlers, which if there's any disturbance during when I'm speaking, it is simply because the antlers keep falling down over my microphone. So we're going to try to get through this podcast. It is going to be a little bit different from normal because we've got to give you that little Christmas spirit, that little Christmas feel. It's going to be a bit special. It's going to be a bit mixed up. We're not going to stick to the plan. We're not going to do things the right way, the way we usually do them. We're going to jumble it up a little bit. So part one is going to consist of the review, where we review the fights from last week. If you've listened before, you know what I mean when I say review part. Then we're going to bring in guest number one. Then we're going to bring in guest number two. Then we're going to dive into part two, where we're going to talk about the preview, because believe it or not, there are still some fights to come, only a couple of them, but there are still some fights to come before the year is out. When I say that, I literally mean like the 27th, 28th of December, there's a couple of fights. We will have another show, I believe, just before the year ends. So this is not the last show of the year. That's going to have a theme to it as well, that next show coming next week. So, so there's a little bit to preview. Then we're going to talk about the news in part two as well. So stay tuned throughout the whole show. Stay with myself and Ayaz in our Christmas outfits. He's also brought some mulled wine as well. So we're going to get through that in due time. So we're going to start with the review part of the show. We're going to start with a card over in Australia. There's one fight to mention over here. It's a man who was on our show last week. It's our good friend Billy Dibb. Now, Billy Dibb was in a 10-rounder it was scheduled for. It was actually a lightweight, believe it or not. He was in there against Emilio Norfat. Now, Emilio Norfat, I don't know how much notice he had, but he came into this fight and he got TKO'd in the first round. I spoke to Billy Dibb very briefly afterwards, and he sent me a video of his fight on WhatsApp, and he was disgraced at the ref. The referee seemed to jump in way too early, and he wasn't very happy with the outcome. Neither was his opponent. So Billy Dibb, nonetheless, 42-4 his record now, and he gets a first round TKO victory on his record. So good stuff at the end of the day. You know, on paper, that's a good win there, first round stoppage. That's it for Australia. We're now going to go over to Canada. Now, these fights are taking place on the Friday. This is, of course, last Friday, which would have been Friday the 16th of December. So over in Canada, in Quebec, Jean Pascal, he got out and he picked up a TKO in round 3 over Ricardo Marcelo Ramalho. So Jean Pascal now 31-4 with the one draw. That's it for Canada. We're now going to go over to the Fantasy Springs Casino over in California, USA, of course. Now, there was a fight on this card that I watched on Box Nation. It was Vyacheslav Shabransky, 17-0, taking on Sullivan Barrera, 17-1. That one loss coming to the masterful Andre Ward. Now, Shabransky was the favourite here. It was for the vacant WBC United States light heavyweight title. Shabransky was down in the first round, so a terrible start for him. He was also down in the 5th round. Sullivan Barrera was also down. I can't remember what round it was. I think it might have been round 2 or round 3. They were both down early is what I'm saying. Shabransky was cut above the right eye from a punch. It was very much a pretty businessman-like performance from Sullivan Barrera. He actually impressed me, to be honest here. Shabransky, as I said, he was in there to win the fight, and basically he just got outmanned a little bit. I don't think it was so much experience. I think it was just the strength of Barrera seemed to take him by surprise. So in the end, he was KO'd in round 7, and it was a real good finishing punch from Sullivan Barrera. So Shabransky now 17-1, and Barrera, he was 17-1. He's now 18-1. So great stuff for him. Also on that card, Eddie Gomez was upset against Rashidi Ellis. Rashidi Ellis now 17-0. Gomez was down twice in the first round, and he was KO'd in that round. That one was for the IBF North American welterweight title. But that's really it for United States on the Friday. We're now going to go over to Saturday. This one took place over in Finland, in Helsinki at the Heart War Arena. One fight to mention on this card, to be honest. Robert Helenius, he picked up a TKO in round 1 over Gonzalo Omar Basile. Now, Omar Basile, he is the man with the most padded record in the whole world. He's got 68 wins. Anytime he steps up, he gets KO'd pretty early as well. He's been knocked out in the first round a few times, and this was no different. So Robert Helenius now 24-1, and he shuts out the year on a high. That's it for Finland. We're now going to go over to France. One fight to mention over here, Christopher Rebras. He picked up a unanimous decision over 8 rounds against Carlos Esteban. So he's now 25 wins, 5 losses and 3 draws. That's it for France. We're now going to go over to India. Vijender Singh. He moved to 8-0. He picked up a TKO in round 3. His opponent, Francis Checker, who had a decent record, 32 wins, 9 losses and 2 draws, he actually spat his mouthpiece out and turned his back on the referee in the fight and started walking towards his corner. It indicated that he didn't want any more. He basically quit and the referee waved it off. So a good win there for Vijender Singh, 8-0 now. A perfect record for him. He is a superstar over in India. Going over to Mexico now, Carlos Molina, we've had him on the show before, the former world champion. He picked up his 28th professional win with a unanimous decision over 8 rounds at welterweight against Diego Cruz, who had a record of 17-3. So Carlos Molina now 28-6-2. That's it for Mexico. We're now going to go over to Reunion over in Saint Denis. 1 fight or 2 fights to mention on this bill, to be honest. Michael Soro, he moved to 29 wins. He picked up a KO in round 10 over Nuhu Lawal. That was the guy who gave Martin Murray life and death on the Monte Carlo show. So a good win there for Michael Soro to get Nuhu Lawal out of there, and Soro successfully retained his WBA International Super Welterweight title. Also on this bill, Alfonso Blanco, who had a record of 12-0. He was fighting for the interim WBA World Middleweight title. In the other corner was Hassan Andam, another man that's been on our show, a real nice guy. He was very much up for this fight, and he stopped his man in the first round. So I'm very happy for Hassan Andam. He stopped him in the first round, and it was a really horrible knockout. Some people are saying knockout of the year. It's definitely in there with a shout. He hit him with a right hand, and his body, well, he basically slammed his face straight on the floor at such a high speed that he bounced and hit his face again on the floor. And then his whole body started shaking uncontrollably. And, you know, that's when your brain's had a real shake. We've seen Deontay Wilder do that to 1 or 2 people. We don't really like to see that stuff, but it was a devastating knockout. So I am pleased for Hassan Andam, and that's his 35th win now. So he's 35-2, and he's the new interim WBA World Middleweight Champion. So will he be getting a shot at Gennady Golovkin in the near future? I suppose he's definitely in there with a shout. I know he's wanted that fight for a long time, but all the best to Hassan Andam. That's it for the Reunion. We're now going over to Russia. Top of the bill over here, Alexander Povetkin, 30-1. He was supposed to be taking on Bermane Stiverne, but he failed a drug test a few hours before the first bell was scheduled for, before the fight. And Bermane Stiverne and his team decided, look, we're not having this fight anymore. The WBC heavyweight interim title was supposed to be on the line, but when they learned that Povetkin had failed a drug test, they decided to withdraw their belt from being on the line. So Bermane Stiverne wasn't interested anymore, and they pulled in victim of Deontay Wilder, Johann Duhaupas, who, he's not a great fighter, but they pulled him in with a few hours' notice, and he actually took Povetkin 6 rounds before being knocked out. And it was a really brutal knockout as well. I've seen a few replays of that. But really unfair circumstances there. So I feel very sorry for Duhaupas. I mean, nobody forced him to take the fight, I suppose. His record's now 34-4. Povetkin, I don't like to point the finger at anyone, call him a cheat in this game, but very unusual circumstances there, and I don't know why he's not been banned. That really does need to, get to the bottom of, because something's not right about his whole persona. So Alexander Povetkin now 31-1. That's it for Russia. We're now going over to the Forum, Inglewood, California, USA. This one was a real big shock. We're going to start with the undercard. Joseph Diaz, he moved to 23-0 with a good win over Horacio Garcia, who had a record of 30-1 with one draw. It was a 10-rounder. This one was for Joseph Diaz NABF featherweight title, so he successfully retained that. Now, I've got to say, Joseph Diaz, the thing that impresses me most about him is there's a load of guys in all different weights, young prospects, seasoned pros, that find it very, very hard to throw the jab and fight on the back foot, box off the back foot. That's one thing. A lot of people struggle to do that. A lot of people can't do that. Simple as that. But I tell you what, the thing about Joseph Diaz is he can actually fight on the back foot. And I don't mean that like, he can pop out the jab and throw a couple of right hands. No, I actually mean the man can properly fight on the back foot. He can throw. I saw him throw a beautiful overhand right while going backwards, and that is very hard to do, and he seemed to pop the head back of his opponent very well. He can just throw a variety of shots. He's brilliant. He digs into the body, he touches upstairs, throws one to the body when you're not expecting it. He does it in reverse. He's a really well-rounded fighter. He does the basics tremendously well. We've been saying it for a long time, to be honest. We've been bigging up Joseph Diaz Jr. for a long time now. The kid is the real deal. And again, another showcase performance from him. I don't think he lost a round. It was a complete shutout. Great uniform he had on as well. Great boxing kit with the shorts and the shoes. He was absolutely brilliant. And another really impressive performance from him. He is supposed to be getting into a fight with Josh Warrington, who's just recently this week signed with Frank Warren. So Josh Warrington and I've just realised how Josh Warrington and Frank Warren's names seem so similar. But yeah, Josh Warrington against Joseph Diaz Jr. and the winner supposedly fighting Gary Russell Jr. So that is some serious talent mix there, and that will be exciting. So a good win for Joseph Diaz. Also on this bill, Jason Quigley. We had him on our show 2 weeks ago. He knocked out his opponent in the first round. Remember, his opponent, Jorge Melendez, had a record of 30 wins, 7 losses, 1 draw. But of those 30 wins, he had 28 knockouts. Jason Quigley stopped him in the first round. He was down 3 times as well. He was getting absolutely battered. And Jason Quigley now 12-0, and I'm very happy for him. Another really nice fella. He closes out his year on a high, and I wish him nothing but the best. Also on the bill, Alexander Usyk. He put his WBO World Cruiserweight title on the line against, I'm not sure how you say his name. I think it's Fabricio Mchunu, something like that. But you know what I'm saying. Mchunu, a good South African fighter. And Usyk was able to... I mean, a lot of people had it pretty close until like round 6. That's what the general consensus is. I actually thought that Usyk, maybe the first couple rounds, it took him a little while to warm into it, but I think he was brilliant. Usyk, whenever he gets to demonstrate his skills, he's just second to none. He's a phenomenal fighter to watch. He does all the basics well. He steps in, steps out. He's brilliant. He really is. He does the whole thing properly. He's a great fighter, Usyk. He picked up a KO at the end of the day in round 9. His opponent, Mchunu, was down in round 6 and twice in that 9th round. So, he was going to inevitably lose on the scorecards, but it's a good win there, good stoppage for Usyk. So he's now 11-0, and he gets his first defense of his WBO World Cruiserweight title win before the year is up. So great stuff for him. And now the shock of the card. I've got to be completely honest. Just a few moments before the fight was happening, I spoke to Eddie Chambers on WhatsApp, and I just said to him, "Are you going to watch this fight?" And he said, "No, I won't be watching it." And I said, "I've got a sneaky feeling that Joe Smith Jr. is going to pull this off." And Bernard Hopkins got in there. He was 51 years old. He's almost 52. He'll be 52 in January next month. And Bernard Hopkins started the fight. I think it took him a couple of rounds, really. The first couple of rounds, I think maybe he had a good second round, a good third round. But the first round, he seemed pretty old in there, to be honest. As the fight progressed, he was having little spells. It was weird because I think there was quite a few close rounds. Bernard Hopkins, he's very, very crafty. You know, he likes to do a lot of holding, which is a bit frustrating to watch, but he's very crafty. He knows how to nick around. He knows to put in a few little bursts of his own just in the second half of the round, which makes a lot of people, score him that round. It's very eye-catching. He's a very experienced old guy. But Joe Smith Jr., I was worried that he might perhaps respect Bernard Hopkins a little bit too much here. And he did outside of the ring. He definitely did. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But in the ring, he didn't respect him as much as I thought he may have, which could have been his downfall. He landed some great shots on Bernard Hopkins. I think Bernard Hopkins as well, he was throwing his right hand. He's got quick hands, Bernard Hopkins, for a man of his age, 51. And he was tagging Joe Smith Jr. quite a lot. He obviously opened up a cut as well. I think that was in round 2. It was very early for Joe Smith Jr. So that was worrying signs. But ultimately, Hopkins was unable to continue after getting knocked out of the ring. And it was by a legal punch. Straight away, I thought it was by a legal punch. And then when I saw the replay, you know, he claimed that he was pushed. Basically, he was on the ropes. Joe Smith landed a flurry of punches. I think it might have been a right hand that hurt him initially. But he took a few. He took like a real good left hook on the temple, right on the spot that would send your balance a bit shaky. And I think that Joe Smith Jr., his shot selection was very good in that little spell there. And he was able to hit someone as crafty as Bernard Hopkins in very good spots. And he didn't block any of them. He landed about 6 or maybe 6 or 7 unanswered punches. And the last punch completely threw him through the ropes. So he fell out of the ring. There was a cameraman who he basically could have fell on his lap, but he moved straight back, and it made a clear path for Bernard Hopkins to completely fall. You know, he fell backwards, obviously, with the punch momentum, but he basically bashed his head on the floor, and he was down for quite a while. Now, in the rules of boxing, if you're outside the ring for 20 seconds, it's 10 seconds inside the ring if you've been knocked down by a legal punch, but it's 20 seconds if you get knocked out of the ring. So I don't know if he knew that or what, but he got up eventually, and this was probably after about, I want to say maybe about a minute. So no one knew what was going on. So Joe Smith Jr. is walking around the ring. He doesn't realise if he's won yet or if he's going to be standing in the opposite corner ready to carry on. No one knew what was going on. It was very unclear. And all the officials and somewhat were all going over there to basically talk, and no one quite knew what was going to happen. Jack Reese, very experienced referee. I was worried that he might, slip up here, in a big fight like this. It was going to be Hopkins' last fight. And he got up to his feet, and then he started claiming an injury, saying that, firstly, he started saying he was pushed. So they had to throw up a replay in slow motion, and he was completely not pushed at all. The only thing that pushed him was a punch in the face. That was it. And it was some good shots, as I said, that were landed. He got up and he tried to say that he had somehow twisted his ankle. They said, "Can you walk on it?" And he said, and Bernard was saying, "Yeah, I can walk, but I can't box on it." So when he said that, then they decided, right, that's it. He's not going to be continuing. It seemed like Jack Reese didn't really make the decision. It seemed like the officials and the commissioners and what were kind of making the decisions, but it was really unusual circumstances. And he got up to his feet, and basically that was it. It went down as a KO in round 8 for Joe Smith Jr. So Joe Smith Jr. is in the ring sort of celebrating, and then Bernard Hopkins limps back backstage to his dressing room. And when they showed you the replay of him falling out the ring, he absolutely did not bang his ankle or anything. His ankle didn't touch anything. So a lot of people were laughing at this on social media and whatever. But, it was a little bit embarrassing because he's a legend. He's definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. He's the oldest world champion ever. I think he won the title when he was 48. He's an absolute credit to the sport. He can't be any prouder. But it was just a bit of a shame to see him hobble off on a fake injury as the last fight that he has professionally. So even after the fight, I thought that there's a chance he might say, "Do you know what? I will give it one more shot. I'm not happy with that." But he didn't. He said, "No, I made a promise. That's my last fight." So I don't know. maybe it is going to be his last fight. Hopefully he is. He looked very old in there. If it is his last fight, then his record will finish with 55 wins. Of course, his last 2 fights he would have lost. So 55 wins, 8 losses, and 2 draws. But yeah, it was a crazy way to go out. Firstly, the first thing I want to bring up to you is that Joe Smith Jr., we should talk about the year he's had. I know that he's not going to win Fighter of the Year, but he's definitely had a blast of a year. He definitely is, an honourable mention. He definitely gets an honourable mention. If it's not at the Fighter of the Year awards, then it's from us on this week's show. Just tell us about the year he's had, Ayaz. The 2 amazing fights, the 2 amazing results that he's had this year. Both fights he was huge underdog in.
He's had a great time in boxing because first of all he knocked out Bonfara, and then he goes and he fights Bernard Hopkins, a ring legend, and knocked him out of the ring and beats him by a knockout. Yeah,
2 knockouts in this 1 year, so he definitely gets an honourable mention. Maybe not Fighter of the Year, but 2 fights where he was an absolute huge underdog. He never had a chance in either of those fights, and he's knocked them both out. So, he's all of a sudden quite a big name. A lot of the top guys now in that light heavyweight division have got to start looking at him as a serious threat. He can definitely bang, and his power doesn't leave him as the fight goes on. So it'd be interesting to see how he would fare against the likes of Kovalev or Andre Ward, or I'll tell you one I'd like to see him in there. I'd like to see him in there against Adonis Stevenson. I think that'd be a brilliant fight. So all the best to Joe Smith Jr. I think that we shouldn't knock him. I think he did really, really well, but everyone's calling him out now. Everyone wants a piece of him. But that's really it about that fight. That's really it. Bernard Hopkins, he can't hang his head in shame. He's had an illustrious career. He's done absolutely incredible things. So we're proud of him here. And if this is to be his final fight, then we wish him all the best in retirement. And that's really it, to be honest, with the fights in America for Saturday. There's one fight to mention now before we end part 1, and that fight is a fight that happened over in Lancashire County Cricket Club in Old Trafford, Manchester. Just one fight to mention, a man that's been on the show before, Ricky Boylan. He picked up a 6-round points win over James Gorman. So Ricky Boylan closes his year on a high, and his record 15-3. So all the best to Ricky Boylan. But that's really it for the review, and that is really all the talking done from last week. That's all the catching up done. There's 2 things to do before we end part 1. We've got to bring in 2 guests. So guest number 1 is on the line. Ayaz, put him through.
Okay, here he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man who promotes some of the best boxers in the world. He goes by the name of Tom Loeffler, but after 2 huge announcements this month, many could mistaken him for Father Christmas. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate that introduction. We're just excited to have been able to announce the Triple G fight and the fight with Vladimir and Anthony Joshua. I mean, that's just taken the UK by storm. So we're excited about both events.
Yes, absolutely. Me, myself, and all of the British public. You enjoyed that introduction. I'm happy about that. It's a pleasure to have you on. As I just mentioned there, 2 of your fighters have announced simply what are called mega fights for 2017. So if we can start with the Gennady Golovkin fight, he's taking on Daniel Jacobs on the 18th of March. Take it away from there, Tom, please. How did this all come about?
Well, it was ordered by the WBA as a mandatory fight. Jacobs is a mandatory contender for the WBA. It took a while to put it together, but I was able to work it out with Al Heyman, and the result is the top 2 guys in the division fighting each other at Madison Square Garden. We're really excited about that, and the fans in New York are excited to have Gennady come back. I mean, he had a great reception over there in the UK when he fought at the O2 against Kell Brook, and now we just wanted to build on that fight.
Out of the other champions in that division, as you said, it was a mandatory. When I say the other champions, I'm mainly talking about Billy Joe Saunders. Who do you see as the biggest threat to GGG? And I'm not trying to get you to envision anyone troubling him because he seems to be in a league of his own. But would you say Jacobs puts up, the biggest threat to his crown in that division?
I would say so. Jacobs is coming off of 12 knockouts in a row. He's a big puncher, has almost a very similar knockout ratio to Gennady. So I would say as far as a threat is concerned, Jacobs definitely is up there. Billy Joe Saunders when he's right, when he's on the top of his game, he's a masterful boxer. So you can't take anything away from him. And then you have Canelo as well. That's the fight that captures a lot of people's imagination. If Canelo moves up to 160, I've been in talks with Golden Boy. They're interested in the fight, maybe doing it in September, but he's got to get a win over Danny Jacobs first before we can talk about other fights in his division.
But just to confirm, the dream fight for GGG above all else would be the Canelo fight, yeah?
Yeah, that seems to have really captured people's attention. Canelo sold 50,000 tickets when he fought against Liam Smith in Dallas, and Gennady has sold out his last 3 arenas that he's fought at in New York, in LA, and in London. So when you got 2 fighters with those type of big fan bases, and you get them fighting each other, it just makes it for a massive promotion.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I want to ask you this question, one that the UK fans will probably be annoyed if I didn't ask it, but there was a lot of talks, remember, for the original September 10th fight with Eubank Jr. Now he's decided to go on his own path. He's fighting on pay-per-view against Reynold Quinlan. Have you got any opinion on that? What actually happened? Why did that fight not take place? There were so many different rumours over this side of the water.
I'll tell you, I thought we had the fight done. Everything that Eddie Hearn was telling me was that, everything was pretty much agreed to. They were just working out the fine points the last week. And then, Eddie called me and said he doesn't think he'll be able to finalize it. So I think, I wasn't privy to all the details, although Eddie did share it with me as far as just small things getting in the way, with the Eubank side being too involved on the promotional side and things of that nature. But again, that was really between Eddie and Eubanks. But the bottom line is, if Eubanks wouldn't sign the contract, then we had to move forward. We gave him a number of deadlines, and that fight unfortunately didn't happen. Unfortunately, the Billy Joe Saunders fight didn't happen either. So that's when he went in the direction of Cal Brook, and I still have to this day, just have a lot of respect for Cal Brook. He showed a lot more heart than a lot of the top middleweights by moving up 2 divisions to face the biggest puncher in the sport of boxing, and we really give him just a lot of respect for his heart of what he was willing to do.
Yeah, me too, for sure. And the last question on GGG, is he simply the most avoided fighter in world boxing? Well,
with 23 knockouts in a row, there's a pretty good chance whoever gets in the ring with him isn't going to go 12 full rounds, and that's what makes my job hard. Is if someone thinks they might lose a decision or have a close fight, controversial decision, whatever it is, that's one thing if they think they have a chance of winning. But it seems like with the people that I negotiate with, we're able to get the fight done with Danny Jacobs. That worked out okay, but some of the other negotiations I've been involved with, it's just people are negotiating like the fighter's going to not be able to fight past the Golovkin fight. So it's really, when you say most avoided, I would have to definitely agree with that title, because it's just been, in the past, when, working with fighters, it's always been the goal of the fighters I've been working with is to challenge the best in the division, challenge for the title, is just to get the title opportunity. When Gennady was coming up, all he wanted to do was fight Felix Storm and Sergio Martinez and prove that he was the best fighter in the middleweight division. And now we're basically laying his titles out like on a silver platter, and to get people to get in the ring with them, they want retirement money, and it just it's really bizarre. But he's changed the economics of the middleweight division, and hopefully if he's successful against Jacobs, and if we can make the Canelo fight, then hopefully he gets a shot at the WBO title at some point in the near future.
Really, really exciting stuff for 2017. So the other big one is Vladimir Klitschko versus Anthony Joshua, April 29th. As you know yourself, over here, Anthony Joshua is almost like a god to some of the UK fans. He's a young lion. Vladimir is the crafty veteran in this fight. Obviously, in Klitschko's last fight, he took on Tyson Fury. He didn't seem the Vladimir Klitschko of old. It seemed like he kind of, I don't want to say got old overnight. To me, looking from my point of view, it kind of seemed like Tyson Fury turned up very unpredictable. I think it was more Tyson Fury why Vladimir didn't perform to what we've seen him do. And seeing just the press conference alone the other day at Wembley Stadium, I could see something in Vladimir that I didn't see throughout all the build-up of the Fury fight. He seems hungrier than, to be honest, past that last fight, he seems hungrier than he has done for the last couple of years. Do you agree with what I'm saying there? He seems to have something that he didn't have for the Fury fight.
I agree 100%, Joey. Ever since he lost his titles to Tyson, he's been driven to get his titles back and to still show that he's the best in the heavyweight division. And the only way that's going to happen is to fight the best. And we have a lot of respect for Anthony Joshua. I was at the fight. Eddie invited me at the fight when AJ fought Dillian White, and so I was there. I know the type of reception he gets in the UK and the popularity he has amongst the fans. And when you put him in against a legend like Vladimir, who's had just a historic run, the interesting thing about boxing is Vladimir was champion for over 10 years, and if you have one off night, whether it's physically or mentally or whatever the case is, you can lose all your titles, like what happened with Tyson Fury. I mean, there's no, not to take anything away from Tyson Fury, because he clearly won that fight, but that wasn't really the Vladimir that we're used to seeing in the ring. And I think, what you described as far as looking into his eyes at the recent press conference, that's the same experience I've had when I've seen him recently. Is just that he's so driven and motivated to get his titles back that he's still, with all of his experience, even at age 40, that he's still the best. And, I think it's going to be a great matchup. What can you say about the two fighters' careers? Both Olympic champions, Joshua undefeated with all of his knockouts, Vladimir having an extremely high knockout percentage. And when you have those two type of forces colliding, you see the fans' response. So it's been 50,000 tickets sold, and the first couple of days of the release for the ticketing. So it's a tremendous event, and not just in the UK but worldwide. When you have a heavyweight championship like that, that really registers on the scale of boxing as far as international interest. And the excitement over here in the States is really built up as well, just to see a great heavyweight championship fight.
I've seen a lot of people talking online. There's a lot of fans that are out there actually saying, Joshua's too young and strong, and Vladimir Klitschko, he's old now, he's finished now, just because of that one bad night in Germany, which obviously is, that's not the case. I truly believe he's not done at all. Eddie Hearn was, he went out to the media and said stuff that the reason why it couldn't be made for for December was the fact that the WBA belt wasn't on the line. They couldn't get that on the line in time, and that was a belt that Vladimir really, really needed to be on the line for that fight to take place. What is so special about the WBA belt that Vladimir, almost didn't want the fight if it wasn't on the line?
Well, it just takes it to a whole different level when you can have a heavyweight championship fight with multiple titles on the line. That's really what Vladimir wants to accomplish, is to just kind of collect all of his belts back that he lost to Tyson Fury. And this is a huge step in the right direction. Obviously, I really think it's the most dangerous fight that either fighter can take. You got to give Vladimir a lot of respect at age 40, willing to go in and fight someone who's young and strong and has knocked out everyone that he's faced. And at the same time, you got to give Anthony Joshua a lot of credit, and Eddie Hearn, for putting him in where a lot of people are saying, well, he's got 17 fights or whatever the number is, and maybe it's a little bit too early to put him in. And to put him in against someone of Vladimir's competition or experience, I should say, and punching power, it's really truly the most dangerous fight either man could take, and we got to give both of them a lot of credit. But these are the type of promotions and the type of boxing matchups that fans respond to and the media responds to, and they understand the danger for both fighters, and that's what really makes it a special type of promotion.
Yeah, for sure. And both men should be given credit, and yourself and Eddie Hearn as well for getting this fight finally on. Now, two last questions I've got for you, Tom. I need to get your reaction to the Hopkins fight. I know that you was sitting there ringside. What did you make of that? It was a strange way to end an illustrious career.
It really was. Bernard's had such a historic run. I mean, we're talking about Vladimir fighting at 40. I mean, Hopkins fighting at 51, almost at 52. I think his birthday is next month in January. Right, yeah. I mean, that's just someone to stay as focused and dedicated and in shape as Hopkins has. It was really bizarre just watching it end that way. Also from a danger factor, him falling through the ropes and falling all the way down onto the floor head first was really a scary sight. But it was a great event. It was a great tribute. We had Alexander Usyk on that show, another Olympic champion. He actually won the gold medal in the London Olympics, representing Ukraine in the cruiserweight division, and he was the WBO cruiserweight champion. So we have a lot of hopes and expectations for Usyk to become the next star in boxing. But it was great being at that event. It was in Los Angeles at the Forum. I was there with Triple G. I was there with Vitaly Klitschko, who's the mayor of Kiev now. And so whenever you're together with guys like that, it just really makes it for a special night, and a tribute to the career of Bernard, that people like that would come out to watch this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Tom, both Klitschko and Triple G are knockout artists. We're not going to mince our words about that. They simply are. So tell me, Tom, if you can, do both of those fights, Klitschko and Joshua and Golovkin and Jacobs, do both of those fights end in knockouts for your men?
I really think so. When you have two big punchers like Vladimir and Anthony Joshua, that one's going to be hard-pressed to go 12 rounds. With Gennady and Danny Jacobs having 35 knockouts in a row, I think that's some type of record that I would imagine at least 20. Gennady has 23 knockouts in a row. Danny Jacobs has 12 knockouts in a row. So when you have two guys like that with 35 combined knockouts in their last fights, that one, I'd be willing to bet that one doesn't go the distance. And most likely, unless it's a tactical fight, because both Vladimir and Joshua both have extremely high amateur experience. So unless it's a tactical fight, a strategic chess match, I see that one with their punching power. I see that after 4 or 5 rounds, someone's going to land a big punch, and I really think that one is whoever lands the first big punch or first big combination probably is going to win by knockout in that fight.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Tom. Okay, listen, Tom, it's been a pleasure having you on our show this week. Please keep bringing us these big fights. I appreciate you giving us a piece of your time, and we'll no doubt speak again soon.
Thank you, Joey. We're looking forward to a lot of the UK fans coming over for St. Patrick's Day weekend, March 18th at Madison Square Garden. There's nothing better than a fight like that, and look forward to coming back to the UK as well. So appreciate you having me on.
Tom Loeffler there with 2 fights that he's presented us in the month of December. 2 fights that are simply mega fights. They don't really need to be sold. You've got Gennady Golovkin and Daniel Jacobs, and you've got Vladimir Klitschko and Anthony Joshua. Just 2 fights I absolutely cannot wait to see. Of course, before we end part 1, as I said, we've got 2 guests in part 1. So the second guest is ready right now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new interim WBA World Middleweight Champion, Hassan N'Dam. Hassan, welcome back on the show, my brother.
Yeah, how are you, brother?
Yes, I'm good, my friend. I'm good. I suppose that you're good as well after a fantastic win on the weekend?
Yeah, I'm very good. I'm very happy, enjoying my new girl. So I'm very happy.
Excellent stuff. So as I just mentioned there, you're the new WBA interim world champion. You beat a previously unbeaten fighter in Alfonso Blanco. You knocked him out in 21 seconds of the first round. This interview is going to last a lot longer than your fight because it only lasted 21 seconds. There's not really too much to say about it, to be honest, Hassan. Why did you beat him in such quick time? That wasn't very nice.
I worked very hard for two months with Pedro Diaz, and we working for that mistake. You're working for that mistake for your left hand every time. I try to work for many mistakes that I done me too. So that's coming very fast. I don't expect that, but that's coming very fast for the first round, for the first punching. But it's a thing we try to do for the training. We try to do it and make it happen in fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And it did happen. As I say, 21 seconds. It's incredible. A lot of people are saying that, you know, you're a contender for knockout of the year. Do you think that you had the best knockout in boxing this year?
I think maybe I'm in the best. I am the best knockout in this year, and I mark the history of boxing. You know, I like this sport, and 21 seconds for one knockout is the history. So I'm very happy to do the history for my boxing, for my sport, because I love this. I love that sport. But you know, they have many other big knockouts will happen this year, like Canelo, Amir Khan. You know, we have many things will happen this year. So I cannot tell that my knockout is the best of the year, but I like it. But I think I was being the contender for this year, so I'm very happy for that.
Yeah, you definitely are a contender this year. So you knocked him out. You hit him so hard that he bounced off the floor. When he was on the floor, his body was shaking. You're not really known as a one-punch knockout artist. Do you feel stronger all of a sudden? Like, are you able to land those types of shots on guys now? Or did it just, you know, is it because you're stronger, you just landed a brilliant punch? Or is it because it just landed in the perfect position?
I think you know, like I told you before, I try to be the best. I try to work my mistake. I try to work my best for this boxing. So I learn every day, and you know, I learned how to put the punches I had, because before I was the technical boxer. I moved too much. Right now, with Pedro Diaz, we're learning to stop and to put your feet down and punches. So that's a new thing I can do right now. You know, I don't change my boxing, but I have many new things will enter in my box. So that will be the new Hassan N'Dam right now. Many openings we're gonna test the new Hassan N'Dam. So they will be careful right now for me.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. That is exciting stuff. Now, you've had a busy year, Hassan. Obviously, you know, you tried to give the Olympics a run in Rio. You've also had 4 professional fights. I didn't have a clue, because last time we spoke, I didn't realize that you were going to try and go at the Olympics. What made you want to do that, by the way?
You know, go to Olympics was my goal, you know. It's only for me, because when the Cameroon called me to do the Olympic Games, I can say no, because I'm professional. I can say no, but at that time I don't have nothing to do, you know. So I am a boxer. I love all things. I love all the competition. So if I don't have no competition, I can go to training. I can have no motivation to go to training. So I say I have some motivation right now to go to Olympics, so to go to training. So I want to go there. So I passed for the elimination in Venezuela. So that was be good. And in Olympics, I hear that I understand that amateur boxing is not a professional boxing. They don't match together, because amateur boxing is three rounds. We don't have a time to know and to stop. We need to go straight away for the fight, inside the fight. But that make me a mistake for my fight with the Brazilian guy. But now I'm come back in the track. You know, when I hear that I will do the interim boxing, the interim championship. I go back in training. I give all the best for me, for my body, for my mind, and then you see what happened. That is the hard work job, the hard work things,
Absolutely. So, if they let professional boxers in the next Olympics in 2020, there's not a chance we're going to see you try out in that one, or no?
No. I understand that boxing, amateur boxing and professional boxing doesn't match together.
Yeah.
So I will not do no more amateur boxing. I'm professional. I will stay professional.
Okay. So obviously, as I said, you picked up the interim world title now. Have you got any idea when your next fighting, or who you perhaps could be fighting next, or when it's likely to be next year at all?
Now I hear that, and the supervisor for WBA told me the day after the fight that Gennady Golovkin gonna fight Danny Jacobs, and my title is not interim right now; it's a regular title. So I was happy when he told me that, but I know that I have many good things will come before after that. So I'm gonna go back in the training. But I don't have no names, right? No names yet. I don't have no names and no date. But I'm gonna go back in training. I have 1 week to rest because I do very hard work. I had 2 months work, had 2 months training. So right now I'm gonna rest for 1 week and then come back to training, come back in the gym, give all my best like I do every time, and then I'm waiting for some names, for the next. But I think, like my promoter told me, I think it's going to be the end of March or debut of April.
Okay, great. That's good news because I wasn't too sure myself. When I knew that the regular champion was Danny Jacobs and you was the interim champion, obviously he's taking on Golovkin, so you've been upgraded. So that's brilliant news for yourself. So I'm happy to hear that. And thank you for clearing up that situation because it's all a bit confusing when it's the WBA. So thanks for doing that. So you mentioned there Gennady Golovkin against Daniel Jacobs. I've got to ask you about that fight. We had Gennady Golovkin's promoter on the show earlier, Tom Loeffler. He's very excited about that fight. How do you see that fight playing out, Hassan, between Gennady and Daniel Jacobs?
That fight going to be the fight for 2 great boxers in middleweight division. It's going to be number 1 and number 2 for this fight, for this division. Golovkin for me is the best. Is the best fighter for middleweight. For me, is the best for pound for pound. But we cannot say he's gonna win 100% because Danny Jacobs is a surprise guy. He's come back for the cancer. He come back and beat Peter Quillin for 1 round. He become world champion. He do many things. Many surprise for people. People don't believe that, and I think it's gonna be a great fight. But I give some advantage to Golovkin because he's a super champion, and he know how to do. He get experience, amateur experience. He got professional experience. He's a number 1 KO boxer, so I think it's gonna be an exciting fight. But I give him some advantage to Golovkin.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. And Danny Jacobs, he is the miracle man. He's got 12 knockouts in a row, and Gennady Golovkin got 23 knockouts in a row. So both guys are coming off of 35 knockouts altogether. So it's very exciting, that fight. Finally, Hassan, the last thing I've got to ask you now, we're asking everybody this because it's close to Christmas. We've asked everybody that we've spoke to this month. What is on your Christmas wish list for 2017? What do you want from boxing in the coming year, which we're very, very close to in just a few more days?
First of all, I want to thank and I want that God make the boxing continue in the clean situation. God bless every boxer, all the boxer around the world, because boxing is a strong job and too much sacrifice in boxing. So I respect all the boxers, all people who do boxing, all training, all sacrifice. So I want them to be blessed by God. And for me, personally, I want big fight coming up in 2017. I come back. Hassan N'Dam is back on track, and it will be very, very hard for anybody. And in 2017, I think great things is going to come back. And maybe, why not, I want to fight the best, because we are in the boxing, we are in the sport. And my goal is to fight all the best in this division. So for me, the best today is Triple G. And after this fight, I hope that the fight with Triple G is going to happen. Why not happen? It's going to happen, I think. So we lost 3 times to fight to each other. And I think right now we're going to have some arrangement to do that, some agreement to do that.
Absolutely, and I will be looking forward to that fight, because that's a fight I know you've wanted for a long time. So I really hope that does come off in 2017 for you. Okay, listen, Hassan, it's always a pleasure speaking to you. You're a true gentleman. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we will speak again very soon.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas to everybody. We hear the Box Rock radio. So thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, we're going to start with the preview part. There's only 2 fights to go over. This card happening over in Quebec, Canada on the 23rd of December. One fight to mention, I think this card's going to be shown on Box Nation, by the way. So this Friday. Artur Beterbiev, he's 10-0. He puts his WBA, NABA light heavyweight title on the line. Of his 10 wins, he's got 10, all 10 by knockout. He takes on Isidro Renoni Prieto, who has a record of 26-1 with 3 draws, and of Prieto's 26 wins, he's got 22 by knockout. So both men can punch. He's a 12-rounder at light heavyweight. Artur Beterbiev, one of my favourite fighters to watch. Very, very exciting. Again, another really, really good fighter, and I'm sure he's going to go out there and get the job done, and probably in style. But that's really it for Canada. One last fight to mention on the preview part of the show. As I say, there's not many people that want to fight this close to the New Year, and that is a fight happening on Christmas Eve. This one's over in the Olympic Yard in Kiev, over in Ukraine. One fight to mention: Andrei Rudenko, 30 wins and 2 losses. He puts his WBC International Silver heavyweight title on the line against Jason Bergman, who has a record of 26 wins, 12 losses and 2 draws. Not a particularly attractive record, but we got to mention Rudenko. You know, he is a good fighter, although he was given a bit of a hiding by Hughie Fury once upon a time, but he's definitely not someone we can just completely, wipe away. He is a decent fighter on his day. So that's really it for the preview part of the show. There's one other thing that we've got to do now, and I want to bring in Ayaz, the man who's wearing the Christmas hat, the Santa over here. Ayaz, have you got the news for us this week? Because there's a couple of subjects, a couple of things have been announced this week that are seriously people are talking a lot about online.
Yes. Gennady Golovkin will fight Danny Jacobs in Madison Square Garden.
That's a fight, of course, that we had Tom Loeffler talking about just a little earlier. That's for obviously it's a unification for the rest of the belts that Gennady Golovkin holds. I've seen a lot of people, to be honest, that are actually saying that this is a fight that they can see Danny Jacobs winning. I'm not sure I'd agree with them at this stage. I think that it's definitely, out of all the 160 contenders, would you say that the guy who can probably put up the biggest test, probably the best fighter in the 160 division, aside from Gennady Golovkin's Danny Jacobs? I know that Billy Joe Saunders was pretty awful in his last fight, but I think he's sort of Gennady Golovkin, then Danny Jacobs, then Saunders. Is that fair to say, or am I missing anyone out in the 160 division?
Yes, that's what I would go for as well. Danny Jacobs, Billy Joe, and Gennady Golovkin. Chris Eubank Jr., he's a good fighter, but he needs to be tested.
Definitely. Completely agree with that. But, do you think Danny Jacobs has got any chance? Obviously, we're going to talk about it more in detail nearer the fight. Obviously, we spoke to Tom Loeffler mostly about the ins and outs. But how do you see that fight playing out?
This is a tough one because then again, Danny Jacobs is a very good fighter, but Gennady Golovkin is just he's a monster in the ring.
Yeah, he's a different animal, but both men can bang. Both men, a lot of knockouts. Danny Jacobs can really bang as well. You know, he really can bang. He's kind of got that that sort of freakish power almost. You know, like the shots that well, I wouldn't say he's anything like Golovkin, but they both got freakish power. Both can definitely knock the other one out if a punch is landed clean. And we can't see the same GGG getting in there that fought Kell Brook, because I think that could really play into Danny Jacobs' hands. But that one definitely is intriguing. Me and Ayaz, we're both discussing fights just before we went on air. We're both just discussing fights that we're excited for. This one was one of them, Ayaz. We talked about the this fight here, of course, between Gennady Golovkin and Danny Jacobs. The other fight we mentioned, I mean, also one that we forgot, Andre Ward against Kovalev. That's supposed to be happening again in 2017. So Kovalev Ward 2, Danny Jacobs Golovkin. What was the other two? I think there was two more. Badou Jack against James DeGale.
And Thurman Garcia.
Yeah, Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman. Out of those four I've mentioned there, Ayaz, because I do really want to see Kovalev and Ward again. Out of those four there, which one would you say you're most looking forward to? Because for me, I've got to be completely honest, it's between Garcia and Keith Thurman. And that's a fight where I think Keith Thurman's going to beat Danny Garcia.
That's I agree with you there. That's one fight I'm looking forward to. Because Garcia, the thing about him, he's a good fighter, but he's been picking his opponents. But now he's got to step up because he's fighting Keith Thurman, a big puncher.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Kovalev Ward, it's a brilliant fight. It's a brilliant fight. The first fight was brilliant. I thought that Kovalev just pinched it. Danny Garcia against Thurman. This is a fight where, you know, both men are undefeated, so somebody's always got to go. You know, Golovkin, he's undefeated, but Danny Jacobs isn't. It's just a little bit more spice to the pot. I know that the undefeated thing doesn't really hold much weight. It depends who you're in there with. There's too many guys with really padded records. But I think Danny Garcia against Thurman's the fight I'm looking forward to the most. So if anybody's listening that wants to get involved, send us a Christmas tweet on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Box Hard Podcast. You can reach out to us and just let us know, out of the four fights that we've mentioned there, so Danny Garcia against Keith Thurman, Kovalev versus Ward 2, James DeGale against Badou Jack. That's another one where, just James DeGale's undefeated there. Badou Jack's got a loss. And the other one, I've just forgot. Oh, GGG against Danny Jacobs. So, of those four fights, just send us in a tweet which one you're looking forward to most. Or if we've missed one, which I don't think we have, but if we've missed one, just send in a tweet and say, do you know what, I'm looking forward to that one most. You can have a fifth option. So any of those four, because me personally, I think it's Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman. Ayaz, which one did you say you look forward to most out of those? Was it Badou Jack and James DeGale? Or
yes, that's the fight. Because this is a unification fight, and they're both good, both talented fighters.
Yeah, well, three of them are unification fights. You know, Garcia, Thurman, unification. Andre Ward and Kovalev's not. That's the only one that's not. But yeah, all three fights unifications. It's great to see. You know, we need the sport. We need this from the sport. You know, the sport of boxing. When there's a unification fight on, it's brilliant. And obviously, another fight that I've missed. How did I miss it, Ayaz? How did we miss it? Oh my God. Klitschko against Joshua. That's probably topped my list, actually. April 29th, Wembley Stadium, 90,000 people, man. Oh,
yes, you're right about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's topped my list. Forget about Danny Garcia and Kit. Oh, I can't forget about it. It's a great fight. But, oh, man, what a fight that's going to be. I didn't have you on last week's show, and you wasn't there to face up to the fact that it's now 4-2 to me, by the way. I just want to remind you that I picked Frank Buglioni to win and I picked Dillian White to win. You went with Hosea Burton and Chisora. So it's 4-2 to me, and I need that written down because I can see you over there as well. You don't look like you've got any intentions of writing it down, but that's got to get written down. The fans, not the fans, the listeners, I call them. Fans is a bit of a disrespect, a bit of a disrespectful statement, but they've got my back on this. You know, I was with them last week on my own, and I think some of them are going to be keeping the scores as well because we know that, you know, you with a pen, you're crossing things out, you're writing other stuff. I don't think you kept the scores very well. I think it's about 6-1 to me. I don't know how you missed up all these scores for so long.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right about that, Joey.
Finally, a bit of honesty. Right, listen. So yeah, Klitschko Joshua. I mean, that's a fight where last week I actually talked about it on my own, as I said, and I'm saying that Klitschko is going to win that from this far out. I can't see my mind changing. I was saying that obviously if there's some sort of injury or pull out, I think it will favour Joshua because it means it's even longer that Vlad hasn't had a fight for. Who do you see winning that fight? Seriously, who's going to win that, Joshua or Klitschko? Don't just side with me on Klitschko. Who do you reckon? Do you reckon this is the time for Joshua to beat the old man?
Personally, I agree with you. I'm going for Klitschko in because the thing is, we haven't seen Joshua go past 8 rounds. He needs the rounds.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. Well, he hasn't really been past 7, is he? I think it was Dillian White that took him to 7.
And Dominic Brazil as well.
Did he take him to 7 or did he take him to 8, Dominic Brazil? I think it was 7, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so he hasn't even been 7 rounds because the fight stopped in 7 rounds. It hasn't gone to the 8th. But that mulled wine I has, tastes a bit mouldy, to be honest. Oh God, less said the better on that. Right, so that's really it for. No, that's not it for the news. You've still got a bit there, Ayaz. What's the other piece? Is it just one other bit?
Yes,
Can't see.
Lenny Dawes' fight will be rescheduled for February now.
Yeah, that was supposed to happen on the 17th. So just Saturday, just last weekend on the big night of fights. And it was supposed to happen in Carshalton at that leisure centre that he fought in the previous year. So he'd been out of the ring for a year. He was fighting in the same venue for the European title again against Anthony Yigit. And I think that Lenny Dawes picked up an injury. I think it was or is it Lenny Dawes who's picked up an injury?
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So that fight's back on for February. I'm not sure if it's in the same venue or not, but Lenny Dawes, I know he's so, he's the top of his list, his to-do list. He definitely wants to win this European title. He gets another crack at it, but he would have been out of the ring for 14 months. So I don't know if that's any good, but we're completely behind Lenny Dawes, especially as he's pretty local to me. Not very local to you, but pretty local to me. So we've got Lenny Dawes' back. But that's really it for the talking, I think that's it for the talking. Is there any more that we've left out at all? Anything that we're going to get out? No, that's it. So that's all the talking done in part 2 as well. So we tried to go through it as quick as possible. I don't know. These shows seem to be just going on for so long. I've got like a motor mouth. It's just going off, especially his mulled wine. It really hasn't helped us. Please don't bring that in again. But the Christmas pudding will be going in the microwave in due time as well. But first, we must bring you our third guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former 4-weight world champion, also known as the Filipino Flash. It's, of course, Mr. Nonito Donaire. Nonito, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Now, Nonito, I want to start this interview with a typical opening question. How did you get into boxing? Where did it all begin?
Well, my father and I wanted to get us, my father wanted my sibling and I to be off the street. So it became an after-school program. Okay.
I've read something where you was a tiny little bit perhaps jealous of your other siblings and felt a little bit left out.
Well, in a way, yes. My older brother was definitely a favorite, but he was winning. And, he was brave and courageous in that sense compared to me, who was made fun of in school and stuff like that. But the attention was definitely there, and I wanted a little bit of that in my case for my father as well, to notice me that I can do it as well. So I got into it not only as an after school program or a self-defense, but as well as to get a little bit of attention that from my father.
Okay. So we'll leave that there. Let's get on to your pro career now. Obviously, you've had a very illustrious career. You've achieved some amazing things, and we wouldn't have the time to go over every single amazing fight you've been in. But if we jump into my virtual time machine for a moment and go back to 777. Now, number 7 is my girlfriend's lucky number. It was your lucky number as well on this night, the 7th of July, 2007. You took on the then IBF flyweight world champion, Vic Darchinyan. Now, Nonito, could you walk us through this fight? Because I know it was more than just your first world title fight. You wanted to get revenge on him because he'd previously beaten your brother, right?
That is correct. My brother was defeated by Vic Darchinyan. And, of course, part of me wanted to not so much revenge, but just to prove that that we are no pushover, But when we got into the fight, into the weigh-ins and the press conference the week of the fight, they were very rowdy. Their corner and their people was very rowdy, and it just ticked me off. It just pissed me off. It just drove me, And at that moment, the fight didn't matter to me. I just wanted to beat this guy. That's pretty much what was in mind. It wasn't the title in my head. It was just I wanted to beat this guy to a pulp as much as I can, or just defeat him. That was going through my mind. It wasn't what he had done to my brother. It was just I wanted to just beat this guy because I thought he was very cocky. He was very his people were just looking down upon us. And that was the only goal that I have in that time, was just I wanted to prove to them that we're better, that I am better, that I'm going to beat them, and that was it, And after that punch that knocked him out, that's when I realized that I became world champion, and then I jumped around like uncontrollably.
I watched that back today, just a couple of hours ago. So that's fresh in my head. I saw you was jumping up and down the ring. You was on your knees. You was hitting the canvas at one point. It was good to see. So you won that fight via knockout in round 5. Obviously, you got the revenge for your brother. You become the first man to beat Victor Arcinian and became the new IBF flyweight world champion. It was also considered knockout of the year and upset of the year, that short left hook, which your brother was very proud of you as well. I watched a post-fight interview. He was very happy at one point.
Yes, he was definitely very happy. I mean, he was the guy that beat him, and his little brother had something that he had done, and I think it was just more of just being in a teamwork mentality, a family mentality, that we are world champions. And it wasn't just myself. It was everybody else, and I think that's what my brother felt at that time.
Yeah, no, it was great to see. It really was. Now, you went on to successfully defend your IBF flyweight title 3 times. All 3 fights you won by knockout. Of your 4 world title fights in total at flyweight, your 4 opponents, this kind of staggered me a little bit. Your 4 opponents had a combined record of 110 wins and just 3 losses, which is just incredible. Now, obviously, you gave up the belt in 2009 in order to move up to super flyweight. You weren't at super flyweight for too long. You had 3 fights there. You captured the interim WBA world title in your first fight against Rafael Concepcion. You beat him unanimously over 12. Then you knocked out former world title challenger Manuel Vargas inside 3 rounds, and then knocked out the eventual world champion Hernan Marquez. After this, of course, you decided to move up to bantamweight, and in your first fight, you took on former world champion. Go on. Yeah, jump in at any time.
The reason for that is, at that time, Darchin and I were supposed to fight a rematch.
That's right.
For the 115, because he was holding the 115 IBF or whatever it was, WBA champion, super champion, and after beating Mijares, and it was on the talk for about almost a year, and for some reason it just fell apart. And when he moved up in weight, that's the reason why I moved up in weight as well.
Yeah, because obviously, you eventually did fight, and it was quite a few weights up in the end, but we will get onto that in due time. So you found yourself at bantamweight. In your first fight, you took on former world champion Vladimir Sidorenko. Now, you became the first and last man to ever knock him out. Of course, he subsequently retired from the sport after that fight. Now, you challenge for a title at bantamweight, and it's against Fernando Montiel. Now, Montiel, of course, held the WBC and WBO world bantamweight titles. He'd never been stopped. Nonito, tell us what happened on that night.
I was very nervous at that night, actually. Montiel is a very formidable opponent. He had just beaten Hasegawa, and he had his momentum. And that night I was very, very confident at the same time, as well as nervous. I was very excited, and we put our game plans together with my team, and we just knew what we wanted to do out there. I had explained exactly what had happened in a fight beforehand, and it was very fortunate that everything that we had game planned for or planned out strategically everything just went in the way we game planned. So, and that's the only reason why that fight went the way it did, which was the knockout in the second round. I knew that he was gonna be susceptible for a left hook, because every time that he moved, he'd punch, but he would always be right in front of you. So all we needed to do was to lean back a little bit, and then to be able to reach him, while at the same time he can't reach me. And so we did that. We game planned the way he was meant to be, and and that's how it looked like. It was easy, but definitely Montiel was not a walk in the park.
No, not at all. I mean, we've even seen him. He got beat on the night, but he gave Lee Selby a run for his money not very long ago. So even nowadays he's very, very crafty. Of course, after knocking him down the first time, I personally thought the referee wouldn't have let him carry on. But, his body was jerking on the floor when he got knocked down. But when he got back up, of course, you landed 2 more shots and then the referee stopped the action. That was the moment that you became the WBO and WBC World Bantamweight Champion. Now, your first offence was against the unbeaten 2-weight world champion, Omar Narvaez. Now, this guy, to be honest, it was a strong touch for your first offence. This was, I think, a lot of people were surprised by that fight coming off. As I said, he'd never lost until he met you. You scored a shutout victory over 12 rounds across all 3 judges' scorecards. Even after losing to you, he went on to have big fights, and he's still fighting now. He's still doing pretty well now. What is your memories from that night there, Nonito? Just in a nutshell, because that was a brilliant win.
Well, I think I was more looking to another knockout in that fight, but he wasn't given to me. He just wasn't giving me any opening. I'm a counter puncher, so whatever opening that I am given, I usually would take it. But I think it was in the third round or the third or fourth round where I almost knocked him out, where he was hurt. But after that, that's when he started just shelling up and put his defense up. And he wouldn't give me any opportunity to counter properly, and the fight came on the way it did.
And of course, after that, you made the jump up to super bantam. Now, you didn't test the weight first or anything like that. You dived straight into a world title fight against Wilfredo Vasquez Jr. For the vacant WBO super bantamweight title. Now, Vasquez Jr. had previously held this belt too, so he wanted to get it back. You dropped him in the 9th. You won on a split decision after 12. One of the judges with a terrible, terrible scorecard against you in that one, but a relatively easy win looking back now. Then you went on to unify your title with the IBF super bantamweight champion at the time, Jeffrey Matabula. Now, you knocked him down in round 4. You broke his jaw in 2 places. Another glimpse of that deadly left hook that you possess in that fight a few times. But ultimately, he took you to the distance in which you beat him unanimously. Any reflect on that fight? Because I'll look at your record, Nonito, and it's full of marquee wins. It's just, I find it hard to skip so many of these fights because they were just such incredible wins.
I remember that, we were going for a counter, and just being in the pocket with Matabula, but that's when I think I kind of lose sight of my technicality. After just looking for knockouts, and knowing the power that I have, I think that's when I stopped using my body shots, my jabs more often, and combinations. I think that's when it started to just kind of relied on my power with Matabula. But I remember at that time we were just trying to get another left hook in there, but yeah, we just did what we did. What I learned to do, or became a habit, was just throw a left hook and relied on it. So that was definitely the part where I just started relying on a left hook a lot.
And of course, after this, you were the IBF and WBO super bantamweight champion, and you were scheduled to defend the belts against Nishioka, but you vacated the IBF belt. Was it a few days before the fight was set to take place that you vacated that belt?
It was during the week, the weigh-ins, where they just we decided to let go of it because there were just too many stipulations for the IBF, and and we just pretty much came there to fight with Nishioka, and yeah, it was the week of the weigh-in. I think I thought it was the weigh-in that we relinquished that belt.
Yeah, I think you may be right there. I'm certainly not saying you're wrong anyway. Now, Nishioka was a two-weight world champion, and he hadn't lost for over 8 years when he fought you. Obviously, your WBO super bantamweight title was on the line. Now, this fight took place in October of 2012. Now, Nonito, you had him down in the 6th and the 9th rounds. What do you remember most about that fight?
For that fight, I thought that in the back of my head, I felt that Nishioka was on top of the line of the fighters, in the weight class. I put him on top of everybody, and I studied him. I studied the fight. I studied the fight. I studied his way of movement, and it was similar to the desire and obsession, in a sense, the way I studied Montiel. I did the same thing with Nishioka. I never took him lightly. And on that last, the 9th round, when the round that I took him, it was the round that we practiced over and over and over and over to hit him with, and it landed.
Obviously, after that, you defended your title successfully once again against Jorge Arce, the former 4-weight world champion, and you knocked him out in round 3. You also had him down in round 2. That fight was 4 years ago this month as well, so a little shout for that one here. And you went unbeaten for 12 years from a controversial loss in your second pro fight in 2001. So we're now up to April of 2013. So 12 years, just nothing but wins. And then you run into Rigondeaux, which you put your WBO title on the line. He put his WBA title on the line. He's regarded as a really, really special fighter. You knocked him down in round 10 though, which a lot of people were pretty surprised about. I didn't really see that happening. Someone who's as defensively sound as Rigondeaux, but you ended up losing unanimously after 12. So you lost for the first time in 12 years. The number 7 was a lucky number for you before the fight, but this was your 7th WBO world title fight, and it turned out to be very unlucky for you this time round. So talk us through that fight, please, Nonito.
On the year of the 13th, I guess is what you can say. Year 13th. We
just to check it wasn't a Friday night by any chance, was it?
No, it was not a Friday night.
Oh, thank God it wasn't Friday the 13th. Okay, yeah, go on.
Yeah. It was we trained, we had so much confidence going into the ring. We had so much confidence going into the ring. We didn't study his fight. We just relied on the left hook. That's pretty much what we did. We just like, you know what? If it lands, it's gonna go. He's gonna go to sleep. But the unfortunate part was we put too much on us rather than looking at it in both ways. That a punch can only be landed if it lands, or devastating. The punch can only be devastating if it lands. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to land at full force with my left hook, and that's how I ended up losing that fight.
But Nonito, what I want to ask you from hearing what you say there is, I'm not saying why were you so confident going into that fight, because every fighter should be confident going into a fight. If you go in there with no confidence, then you've basically lost before you get in there. But knowing how highly regarded Rigondeaux is, why would you make the mistake of being perhaps a little bit too confident? And also, you're a smart fighter, you're a brilliant fighter. I'm not just saying that because you're here, but why would you solely rely on the left hook in a big fight like that, a world title fight?
I think that ultimately, the desire for the sport game was diminishing. After the Nishioka fight, I was questioning myself, where am I going from here on out? I've been boxing for quite a while at that time. I was just kind of questioning myself. And then even in the Arce fight, I told my friends and my teammates, my corner, that if it was anybody else better than him, would have beaten me that night. Even though it looked easy for me, I saw so many flaw within me, and I told my guys, and I was very upset at that fight, by the way. And then the Rigondeaux fight happened. And we just relied, because I was always constantly told that, hey man, you hit him with one punch, you're gonna knock him out. and of course you start believing it, because you start losing that edge, and the moment that I had lost that edge is the moment that I was bitten, and that was it.
No, I appreciate your honesty there. Is that something that, obviously, we've still got a couple more fights to go over before we are up to speed where we are today, but as a desire, I want to ask you this now because we're on this little point. Did the desire come back after the Rigondeaux fight, or a couple fights later? Have you still got the fire in you at the moment, would you say? After
the Rigondeaux fight, I was losing my path, because I let my pride get in the way, and instead of taking in and just being responsible for the loss, I made a lot of excuses. I mean, well, it's not so much, it was factual. I fought with a torn ligaments on my shoulder, on my rotator cuffs, but I fought because I thought that, if I land the left hook, that's all I really need to do, and I just relied on one hand, and I fought with it. The next day, after the fight, I got back to San Francisco, got it done, and from that moment on, I just kind of was in a limbo of my pride getting in the way of, like, I should have studied him, I should have, could have, would have, but I didn't, kind of situation for me. So at that moment, I was just kind of trying to find myself. You just, it was like a pitcher who strikes everybody out, and when everybody figured him out, it was like he needed to find his way, and I was pretty much the same boat. Like, I needed another identity, and I was just kind of trying to figure out where I'm going to be with boxing, But then my pride wouldn't let me walk away from it.
Okay, interesting. Now, 7 months later, you'd have thought that maybe Vic Darchinyan's people might have stayed away from number 7 after last time, but only 7 months later, you're back out again. You moved up to featherweight, and you rematched Vic Darchinyan. So everybody knows if there's a 7 involved, we know what's going to happen here. So 6 years after your first clash with him, this fight took place, the rematch. You were losing this fight on 2 of the judges' scorecards. And then in the 9th round, the scorecards weren't needed. History repeated itself, or maybe I should say your left hook came back to haunt Darchinyan once again. You dropped him, he got back up and was ultimately stopped with a left uppercut being your final punch in that one. I know that after the first fight, because as I say, I rewatched it today, and you were very, very respectful. You are a very respectful, honourable man. I saw that you were sort of saying to him, listen, I really respect you. I've won this fight. You were being very, very respectful. And then he was like, okay, you respect me. Give me a rematch. He seemed very hostile, to be honest. Now, how did it feel to get this rematch? Because, as you say, you wanted the rematch, he wanted the rematch. It had gone on through quite a few weight divisions. I think you moved up 3 or 4 weight divisions, and then it finally happened at featherweight. So how good was it to basically shut the book on this whole Vic Darchinyan, beef, if you like?
Well, I never really had a beef because of the fact that I knew exactly what was going to happen in my head. And I welcomed it. And when it happened, I was very, very grateful for that moment, regardless what it may seem, I think they probably still believe that they can still beat me, and that they can still win. But the truth is I beat them twice, and I knocked them out twice. And that's just the bitterness of it all. But, this is boxing. This is what it's supposed to be, and ultimately, it was definitely a closing to the book of Darchinyan versus Donaire versus Darchinyan,
Were you happy that whole saga was over with?
Definitely. I never really dwelled into it. I mean, I had a lot of issue during that time, going into that fight. I was brought in the hospital, a few fractures here and there in my hand and in some places as well. So, I just kind of went on and just healed up and tried to figure out again where my mindset was, So.
Okay, so in May of 2014, you fought Vetieka, the WBA Super World Featherweight Champion. You dropped him in the fourth, and you were cut due to an accidental head clash. I think it was maybe in round one. It worsened, and it caused the fight to end early, so it went to the judges' scorecards for a technical decision in round 5. You won the bout 49-46 across all 3 of the judges' scorecards, so you became the WBA Super World Featherweight Champion at this point. You ran into then the Axeman, Nicholas Walters. He was flying at the time. He was 24-0. This was set to be a really good fight. A lot of people were really, really hyped up about the Jamaican. This was going to be a fight where we'd find out how good he really was. He picked up a good win on the night, in all honesty. It was a fight where you didn't really look like the Nonito Donaire that we know. What do you remember from that fight? Because, this was the first time that you, and hopefully the last time, that you were stopped in your career, thus losing your WBA world title that night.
Well, I think that at that moment, I had 6 weeks of training for that fight. Top Rank gave me a call, and I said, okay, I'll take the fight. So, but I go out there and I always want to represent. I came out there with the thought that I might not make it to the 12th round because, if I go all out, my stamina wasn't going to sustain. So I went out there and I got very desperate. I almost knocked him out, and I felt like I could do it the next round, and ended up being dropped for the first time in my career, touching the canvas. And I think that was partly the biggest fight in my head that led me to lose, and got desperate because I've never been down and I've never touched the canvas, and that was the first time. And there was a lot of mental blockage, a lot of mental personality just fighting within me. And so when I fought, there was no part of me that wanted to give up, of course, but there was a lot of mental battle that was fighting me. It was like, oh, you got dropped. Oh, this guy is bigger than you, and stuff like that goes into my head. But I went out there and then just went in desperation rather than being patient. In the early rounds, I was doing really well by being patient, but my impatience cost me that fight.
Yeah. Now, you came to a conclusion, it seemed, after that fight, that maybe going to featherweight was perhaps a step too far in terms of weight because, you'd moved through a bunch of divisions at this point and you were not in your comfortable and natural weight category or really anywhere near it. Is that fair to say? Is that why you went back down to Super Bantam?
Well, that's definitely fair to say because, I, for a fact, during the fight when I fought with Walter was 140 plus, 143 or so, and I was 129 walking into the ring. So he had a lot of weight. And I know that when I landed the punch at any level of if it was a smaller guy, he would have succumbed to that power because I landed really well. I felt it, and I felt good on that hit. But being the bigger guy, you can always most likely take the bigger punch, the punch.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's of course, that is true. So you ended up back down at Super Bantam. You fought 3 times in 2015, once in the Philippines, once in China, and once in Puerto Rico. All 3 fights you won, 2 by knockout in the second round, and the third via a unanimous decision when you outpointed Cesar Juarez for the vacant WBO World Super Bantamweight strap. So despite going the distance, you had him down twice in round 4. You defended that title once successfully this year in April, earlier this year against Salt Berfak, I think that's how you say his name, where you made pretty easy work of him, putting him down twice in round 2 and eventually getting the TKO in round 3. Just last month, you fought again, of course, on November the 5th, and you took on the undefeated Jesse Magdaleno, 23-0. You put your belt on the line. It really wasn't your night. It's a shame because, so to speak, it seems like your years kind of ended on a bit of a low after that fight. Seeing as it's the most recent fight, Nonito, and all the other ones that we've gone over are in the more distant memory, what went wrong just last month?
Well, what went wrong is the confidence level. that I had, my mentality, after doing a lot of seminars and a lot of life coaching, I've gained so much confidence. I became a better man, became a better father, son, a better friend, and I'm proud of that. And when I got into the ring, I trained very hard for it, but there was just something that I missed, which was the habit that I've created throughout, which was just a one-punch person, one-punch fighter. I created that habit for so many years because I've relied on it for so long that I was unable to really correct it. But that's something that I've learned, and I'm very grateful and thankful for, because now I can create a better fighter in seeing my flaws in all the fights that I've lost throughout the years, and all the fights that I've won. Just going through it, I've learned that, that was the greatest experience that I can have, is because at this moment now, there's no more faltering back. I have to keep moving forward and be better. And in doing so, I have to correct all the habits that I've created throughout the years and be youthful again.
So, Nonito, I want to ask you this now, because, we've gone over a load of fights there. I want to ask you, who was your toughest fighter that you've shared a ring with? I know that really and truly, any name you say, I'm gonna probably not be surprised by, because there's probably about 15 or so guys you could choose, and you could all arguably say they was just as good as the other. And you thought, like I say, a real talent pool of good fighters. So I want to ask you, who was the toughest fighter that you shared a ring with, and what was the biggest regret of your boxing career so far?
The toughest guy I would say would be Cesar Juarez. I've never been so exhausted. I've never been put into a test to question my identity as a warrior. Part of me was like, man, I'm tired. I just want to just sit down and just stop. I was so exhausted. I know I was the better fighter. I know I was incredibly ahead of the fight, but I was tired. I was bleeding. I was exhausted. Part of me just wanted to quit. And I've never been in that position, ever. I've been dropped, but never part of me wanted to quit. I've been hit, never part of me wanted to quit. But at that time, I was very tired, and I had to test my will. And I was very grateful for that moment, because it made me realize I wanted to be boxing still. So I would say that was my toughest fight. My most thing, it's hard for me because I don't really believe in regrets, So, I've always believed that life always gives us something to teach us a lesson, regardless if it's victory or not. I would just, the only thing that I would say that I would regret would be fighting where I'm not 100%, like with Rigondeaux being my rotator cuffs all messed up, or fighting with Walters for a 6-week notice, that probably would be just having the right decision at the moment in time. That would be the only regret. I mean, I don't really believe in regrets. I've always believed in the learning lessons that life gives us.
Yeah, no, that's a positive look on life anyway. So I appreciate that. I agree. That's a good way to look at life. So right. So what is next for you, Nonito? Which weight class will you be at? I'm guessing next year, 2017.
Well, there's a lot of fights out there that I'm willing to fight. From 122 to 126. Or getting the rematch or anything like that. I'm willing to give it out there, just reach out to everybody out there, all the champions. Let's make it happen. I'm ready to go, and that's pretty much it. But I mean, just for now, the main thing is celebrate this holidays with my kids, with my family, and next year, start the negotiation. And I'm willing to fight anybody. I've always been that way, and will always be that way.
And which weight class are you most comfortable at, though, in your most honest opinion at the moment?
Well, right now, the 122 would be the most comfortable for me. I mean, the last fight, I weighed in at 122 or 121, closer to 122. But the fight, I was about closer to 129, 130. So I'm very comfortable at this weight class at 122, but I'm also willing to fight at 126,
Okay, so super bantam. Obviously, you've got Rigondeaux, the WBA champ. You've got Jesse Magdaleno as well, the WBO, and a man I'm quite big on at the moment, Jonathan Guzman, the IBF champion, 22-0 with 22 knockouts. So it's a real thriving division at the moment. All three guys, pretty much danger men. What's your opinion on? Have you seen much of Jonathan Guzman at all? If so, what's your opinion on him?
I've honestly, that's the first time I've heard his name.
Oh boy,
I haven't seen him fight. Now that you look, now that you said his record and how much your height, it piqued my interest now to see this guy. And I'm probably gonna research this guy soon after we hang up, because honestly, this is the first time I've heard his name.
Yeah. So he's the IBF world champion. As I say, 22-0 with 22 knockouts. The crazy story about him was when I can't remember when he won the world title earlier this year. I can't remember which country it was in which he won the world title in, but when he was coming back from the airport, he got robbed for all of his fight purse, which was quite incredible. That made the news as well. So horrible stuff. But yeah, he's a devastating puncher. So yeah, look out for him, because he's making a lot of noise at the moment. So okay, so probably at super bantamweight. So you're open for pretty much any of the guys from 122 to 126. Anyone in particular at all?
No, you got Santa Cruz, you got Frampton,
those
got all
guys
these
are fighting each other, of course. Yeah. I mean, those are interesting to me. Now this guy that you mentioned is pretty interesting to me as well, because I'm a fighter. You give me something that's challenging, I'm always gonna go for that. That's just how I am. That's how I'm built. If it's tough, I'm there. If it's good, okay, I'm there. Okie dokie. So I want to ask you this now. If you were some sort of boxing promoter god, some boxing promoter Santa Claus that could make any fight happen in the boxing world, doesn't have to be super bantamweight, can be heavyweight, any weight class, which fight would you like to see in boxing at the moment? The most exciting fight from your point of view? A lot of good fights happening next year, actually, but if you could make any fight, which would it be?
Man, there's a lot of fights I want to make. I mean, you got the Canelo, Triple G. I wouldn't mind seeing the Ward Kovalev again, and if Mayweather's in the mix, I would want him to be with Crawford, or Crawford and Errol Spence. I mean, there's just incredible fights out there.
Sound good.
Yeah. So yeah,
that sounds very good.
Yeah, man.
I thought you was going to say Mayweather and McGregor for a minute. I was going to be quite disappointed if you said that.
No. I would mix him up with it's gonna be incredible fight between two tactical, fast, fighters with Crawford, and of course you got Errol Spence, who's incredibly dangerous. I mean, it's there's a lot of great fights out there, a lot of great fights.
Now, I've got three last questions for you before I let you go, Nonito. Firstly, because we're in that Christmas spirit now, we're coming up to Christmas. Everybody that we've interviewed throughout the month of December, of course, this is the Christmas special show as well. So, we're trying to bring the Christmas spirit as much as we can. What is on your Christmas wish list? I've had to ask this to everybody. What is on your wish list for 2017? In a little bit of a dream world, but not too much of a dream world, a little bit realistic as well. Where do you want to be in 2017? I know you want to be, in another big fight or two, but would you like to be world champion again? At what weight? Which fight would you want to land? I'll let you take it away.
I want to do a rematch with Magdaleno. He had promised me he would give me a rematch, but unfortunately, he declined to do it because he said that he won't want a rematch with me. So, I don't blame him. But that's something that I want is a rematch, and I know that it won't be close the next time around. Of course, you got Frampton, you got Santa Cruz. Whoever wins with those, there's always incredible fights out there. I mean, of course, I'm still willing to go out to your side if anybody's willing to fight me out there. I mean, that's just my wish list right now. Is just I'd like to travel and fight in the UK. And at the same time to get the big belt, and ultimate goal is, of course, be a world champion in 2017.
That's actually just made me ask another thing. There was a lot of talk at one stage that a guy from over here, super bantamweight, Scott Quigg, was going to fight you at some point. Was talks ever serious for that, or have you not heard nothing about it? Because a lot of talk was being said over here.
It was set. It was set in stone. It was set already. I was training for that fight, and unfortunately, they were enticed to fight Frampton. Which I don't blame them for. This is a business sometimes. But yeah, I was actually training for that fight. We were already setting up where we're going to stay, where we're going to train and everything like that, and who we're going to bring to go out there. It was already set, but they somehow wanted, a bigger opportunity, which again, I don't blame them for. This is what boxing is.
Wow. Yeah, no, because if you did come over here, I'm telling you, there's a hell of a lot of guys out here who absolutely love you. You'd actually, I don't want to say you'd have more fans than Scott Quigg, but you definitely have a lot of people wanting you to beat Scott Quigg. I don't know if it's a good thing to say that or not, because, we should want to back our Brits, but you are very much loved over here. Now, I've got to ask you this as well. Thank you. It's my pleasure on behalf of the UK fans. I've got to ask you this as well. Everybody that we speak to from overseas, I have to ask them this. Who would you say, if I ask you the question, who's your favourite UK fighter, Nonito? Who comes to mind as your favourite fighter? It doesn't have to be a current fighter. It can be one from the past, from any generation, any era. Who would you say is your favourite British fighter?
I mean, that thing that I really liked was just the personality of Hatton. He went out there, he did it, and I would say Hatton would be. I mean, Kazagi, Hatton. I would say Hatton would be fun for me. It was fun for me to watch him. When I was watching him, when he did his thing, I would say Hatton. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. Just the thing that's coming out of my head right now is just that.
Yeah,
oh wait, of course you got Naseem Hamed. You gotta say Naseem Hamed as well. I mean, that was incredible. Naseem Hamed was incredible. He's one of the guys that I watched growing up. So yeah, I would say Naseem Hamed actually.
Yeah. All three guys that you mentioned anyway, Kawasaki, Hatton and Naseem Hamed, they're all popular choices when I ask this question. So I just want to throw two quick questions at you. So you would be open for the Scott Quigg fight next year or not, Nonito?
Bring me to Manchester. Bring me to anywhere. I'm always hoping for that fight with Scott Quigg.
And obviously, this is. You may think I'm not telling the truth here, but I'm being completely honest. I don't know if I've been living under a rock or something, but I heard that did Manny Pacquiao say something that he shouldn't have said, something disrespectful towards you or something, or have I just completely heard that wrong? If so, what did he say? Because I really don't know. I didn't know. I didn't hear.
He just said that I'm lazy, and hey, that's his opinion, because again, my style was a one-punch thing, and throughout the years, you've seen me fight the way I've been fighting, so there was no big difference in it. But whatever he had said was something that he had an opinion of. I mean, but I believe that as a fighter, if you really know, and just for a person, if you're in a camp, you should know exactly how hard he worked. I mean, I could totally say that he's being lazy himself, because he has not the same thing as he was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. He's not throwing as many punches as he did. But I'm not that. I didn't go to his camp. He worked hard for it. He won, and all that stuff. For me, hey, it's his opinion. I always welcome people's opinion in that sense. So, but I go out there and it's just kind of prove, just do your best, I guess, is what I'm saying. But I don't condone anybody else's opinion. They have their own ways of doing it, of saying things, and then I just leave it at that, I guess.
And obviously, you guys went to the same school back in the Philippines. Are you guys friends at the moment, or do you not talk? What's the situation?
People always have this this
idea that you're like best of friends. Yeah,
they always have this feeling that they think that because we're both Filipinos, we gotta be best friends. We're not. We were very cordial. We're very respectful to each other. And I like that. I mean, he's not. I'm a better friend than I am with Crawford. I'm better friends than I am with Jesse Vargas. Because I talk to these guys. I don't talk to Pacquiao that way, because when we see each other, we hang out, we have respect for each other, but that's pretty much it. I mean, we don't text each other and say, "Hey, what's up? How you doing, brother?" You know, we don't. But just because I'm Filipino doesn't mean that we're best friends. You know, I always believe that being human is becoming a point where there is really no boundaries. It's who you are good friends with, or who you consider brothers, or whatever it may be. You know, regardless of ethnicities or religion or anything. You know, I think that we're all human in that sense, and it can be anything. I mean, you know, but I see that the connection, because both Pacquiao and I are Filipino, but you know, we're just cordial. We're friends in a distant way of respect.
Nonito, you know, you come on here, we ask you some boxing questions. You've given a few life lessons as well during this. It's been pretty good to listen to. You've really, it's almost like I feel like I'm the guest on your show a little bit here.
No, you know, it's the thing is that you grew up in that atmosphere. You know, you come, you win and you lose and you realize. And sometimes the reason why people start falling apart is because their pride is stronger and their ego is stronger than the learning experiences that they're supposed to have. You know, life in our world is meant to be learned. You know, lessons are meant to be learned, not to break us apart. But that's the only reason why people fail, is because it breaks them apart rather than learning from it.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. Now, the last thing I want to ask you, well, it's not really a question, to be honest, but I want to give you an opportunity to send a message to your UK fans, Nonito. As I said before, you've got a hell of a loads and loads of guys. I'm sure you've got loads of social media followers that are from the UK. People love you out here. Could you send a message to the UK fans that may be listening?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you all. Thank you for the support throughout. You know, I hope that you guys enjoy my fight. There's much more coming. But first and foremost, enjoy the holidays, because this is the moment that we can all connect to each other with our families, with our friends. So that's the most important thing, is to enjoy life. But when I fight, I'm going to make sure that you guys enjoy it. But I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart for always supporting me. So empower yourself, because that's what we have, is the choice to empower yourself. So thank you.
And on behalf of the UK fans, I thank you very much. Okay, listen, Nonito, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really, really has. I appreciate you giving us a bit of your time. I hope you have a great Christmas and a fantastic New Year, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. You guys are amazing. Thank you, brother. And again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year's, you know, and enjoy it to the fullest, man, because we all deserve it. But thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, now it's time to conclude the Christmas special episode of the Box Hard podcast for 2016. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. Part 1 was pretty normal. Tom Loeffler had his promoting hat on, talking up the great fights his guys were involved in for next year. Hassan N'Dam talked about his recent victory and becoming the WBA world champion. And we ended the show on a lengthy and in-depth interview with the one and only Nonito Donaire. Making this show has been a pleasure. I'd like to thank our 3 guests that made it extra special. I'd like to thank our loyal listeners for tuning in once again and giving us your ears. This has been our present to you. We wish you a Merry Christmas. Enjoy yourselves. God bless you all, and we'll see you next week.